So, if this is your first time with me live on Mondays, we do our lives. And these are obviously not paywalled, it's for everyone. Just so, we could all get a taste of the medicine, hang out together, see what it's about. Wednesdays and Fridays are open, but then paywalled for the replay, yada, yada, yada. And today, when we're talking and we do our lives, I do three talking points with three reframes and three reflections. That is just a way I like to deliver it. And today we are going to be talking about returning to the bones and what that looks like, because today is Indigenous Peoples Day, right? Once known as Columbus Day, but we know there is no discovery when there's already land and people somewhere. So we are going to honor that in this month. The theme of this month, if you are again new here, is the season of descent. I like to move with natural seasons. I do not believe that we are supposed to always be producing. We should not always be on. We need to be moving in more accordance and in right relationship with the land. So during this month, these pieces have been heavier, meatier, if you want. For September, I was like, it's like stew, right? Like throw it all in there. And we were doing the Gilded Age, and then everything came up with Charlie Kirk. So I try to draw the parallels there. Abia says, honoring my Taino ancestors today. Blessings to their memory. Thank you for still existing. Thank you for still being here and being resilient. They still are here. And that is something that is so beautiful. And that is what returning to the bones looks like, is remembering, reconnecting, honoring, what it feels like to be Indigenous actively, to have once been Indigenous. The article that was released this morning also walks through what it's like to be a part of the colonizer class right now. What does that look like to honor that grief of once having been Indigenous and being severed from that? So sitting with the grief and all of the things that are happening. And it's a very specific month, right? Because it's Hoodoo Heritage Month. You have Dia de los Muertos, you have Samhain. Um, the Sami people have something. There's across the world during this month, it is not coincidental that this is a huge honoring of ancestral times and veneration. And as white body people, which is most of my audience, I really want people to touch that, right? To reconnect, to see what that feels like with reverence, with honor, with respect, knowing that it may not always be possible to go back to the ancient practices. And that's okay. That's just an acceptance of what colonization has done to us, but recognizing that we could shed the identities that have been given to us, right? This is all a construct. None of it is real. And we need to get back to reality, which means getting back to humanity. For me, this is the work that I do. I believe that decolonization is a journey back to self, right? We are our first homes in a world, out of world, yada, yada, yada. Good morning, Sierra. Hi, Jennifer. Okay. I do try to respect your guys' time and try to keep this to 30 minutes, but I want you to know that I respect your time. This is a bomb to my soul. I'm so glad to see you were able to make it this morning, Michelle. Good morning, Ria. Good morning. Okay, so also, exciting news. I've always incorporated somatics into my work. If you followed me from TikTok, I used to put up things like with somatic breaks and stuff, but I am journeying deeper into my somatic work, and I am doing psychosomatic practitioner training, which is divine and delicious. And I'm loving incorporating. Morning, sunshine. Hi, Ashley. I'm loving incorporating that more intentionally with this work. I think it's super important because unlearning colonization is not intellectual, right? We could read all the articles, you could read all the books, you could join all the book clubs, but there needs to be an embodiment of it, a feeling of it, right? So that is what we're doing today. Okay, friends? So big Tipo breath. Get your water, your coffee, your hot drink. I've already had mine. And let's just like move our bodies and let's go. Amen, Ashley. Okay. Let's bring this good word. All right. So returning to the bones. Three takeaways, friends. Three takeaways. Are you in the garden? Oh, I love that. I want to revive my garden. I need some help. Like I desperately need some help. If you're in Atlanta and you're like, I want to help Des, come on over. I also need some RV help, but that's neither here nor there. Listen, let's go. Returning to the bones. Three takeaways. One, remembrance is revolutionary, right? Two, grief is sacred, not shameful. And three, liberation is a practice of relationship, not performance. Okay. All of this will come back in the replay as well. So if you pop in later or you have to pop out, you will not miss a thing. The entire recording and the writings will be available on a replay. So no worries. Okay. To remember is to resist erasure. When you slow down and listen to your lineage, you are doing the most radical act there is. It is refusing the forgetfulness that empire depends on, right? Did you lose me? Am I back, Abia? Because I do not want it to not. Okay, I am back. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Susan. Good morning. So, relationship, not performance. Yep. Good. Okay. So, remembrance is revolutionary. To remember is to resist erasure. When you slow down and listen to your lineage, you are doing the most radical act there is, refusing the forgetfulness empire depends on, right? So, when you think about it like this, you get those people that are like, get over it, move on. Oh, no, this is the new history now. And it's like new history does not erase old history, right? We don't just keep layering on and it forgets. And part of that remembering and why it's so revolutionary and why you see Black Americans and, the diaspora, right? Africans throughout the diaspora. There's huge discourse going on about Bad Bunny. I'm loving the discourse, right? It is that remembrance, that reclamation, putting up that Puerto Rican flag. It was illegal to fly their own flag. There's something absolutely beautiful about it. Internet connection not stable on my end. Goodness. Hmm. Am I still coming through? Hopefully, I'm still coming through. I don't see any indication on my end that I'm not. Um, okay, thank you, Abia. So when you think about those things, when you see people remembering, right? When you see people saying, "Absolutely not, I will not be forgotten, I will not be erased," that is a revolutionary act. When you see people going back to their indigenous languages, their indigenous practices. That is an ancestral remembrance that is necessary for that revolution, right? The revolution happens within, right? It's like I said, it's a journey back to self. And when it's happening within, it's going to happen without. You're going to raise children like that. And doesn't mean that it's your own biological children. It's going to be the children around you, the way that you educate, the way that you show up, the way that you move in parks in conversation when you hear somebody, the communal care that's going to happen. And that remembrance is necessary. So, in this reflection that I offer in the reframe, I say it goes from ancestral worship, right? Because a lot of people are doing that worshiping, and I love that. But there's also the ancestral relationship, the repair that has to happen. So, we're not deifying, right? In that sort of way. We're not taking Christian, colonial Christian views and placing it on top of our indigenous reconnection journey. We are simply saying, you know what, I want to honor the people that came before me. I want to honor the people that fought for me to still be here. Like I exist because they resisted. And that is a beautiful thing and a revolutionary remembrance. You exist for that reason as well. You are here because your people are resilient. If you have forgotten who you are and you have now come into alignment with what the colonizers called you very specifically, if you were white, I often ask, who were you before you were white? That is where your reconnection journey is going to begin. So when you move from ancestral worship to ancestral relationship, what happens is we're not deifying, we're dialoguing. Ancestral veneration is a conversation, a living exchange between what was and what still is, right? So when I am speaking with my ancestors or when you decide to, it is sitting, it is communing. Listen to this moment, right? Like you can hear the birds in this fall time, in this seasonal transition. Hey, Jen, you'll notice that things get quieter, right? If you are in regions where it snows, I love the snow for the silence. right? Because nature knows it muffles everything. You're going to hear less birds because they're going where they need to be. That is communing with nature, right? Recognizing the crunch of leaves under your feet. That is a communing with nature. Those are your ancestors because you are meant to be in communion with land as well. I know that it's very difficult for white body people to want to connect with their ancestors, but that's because you're using a very limited lens on who and what your ancestors are, right? All of them were not absolutely terrible people. You are proof of that, especially if you are listening to me, right? That means there is a calling in your bones that says that this isn't right. I want to get back to right relationship. I want to get back into right relationship with me. Most likely, there was someone in your lineage that also was like that, and that calling is stronger. Reconnect to those people. That is what that is about. So the reflection that's offered here is what am I still carrying that wasn't mine to hold, right? So when you take that, you're going to pause, you're going to breathe into that moment, right? Like, what am I carrying that's no longer mine? And then you're going to recognize where does that land in your body? Does your jaw feel tight? Did your shoulders tense up? Did your stomach get queasy? Did your back hurt? What's going on? Where does that live inside of you? Right. And recognizing that, journal with that, sit with that for a moment. What does that represent to me? How has that shown up in other aspects of my life? Do I often feel that in my stomach, right? When I was younger, I you cannot tell. I could not I could not lie, right? Like in this sort of like I just not in that a blinking I could not tell a lie sort of way because we all remember that story, right? But like it would make me vomit. Like I would literally vomit about lying. It would be like I just can't do this. Like it just it didn't sit right in me, right? And like so now as I've become older and other people going through this journey, they're like, oh, I feel so queasy. And what I call it is truth vomit, right? Like you feel sick with the lies that we've been fed and it wants to get out of your body. So that's an indication for me. So now whenever I'm in a space and I'm feeling queasy, I'm like, there's a lie afoot. There is something that is not truthful here. Be it the area, be it the message, all of these sorts of things, my body is going to tell me that. Ashley says, so we cleared the back corner of the yard, so I could put in cinder block and wood benches for an altar and meditation space. Justin did it. The whole energy in the house is shifting in a good way. My hips are hurting because they are too tight. Stretching hamstrings help. Love that. And this is body practice. This is embodiment of liberation work, right? Tons of our trauma gets stored in our hips. I firmly believe that this is attached to what we call the hoe phase, which I'm not against, but at least do it with intention of what we're releasing, right? Like moving those hips, stretching it, opening it. I fully believe that this is why good sex is very important as well. I mean, obviously, unless you're asexual, nobody's knocking that. But if you are being open with your body in these sorts of ways, being deeply intentional is important. Christine, no worries. There is a replay. Jump off. Have an amazing day. I hope everything meets you with ease. Come on and think deeply. All right. So, second one, grief is sacred, not shameful. Grief isn't what breaks us, it's what brings us back to wholeness. When we make space for grief, we reclaim a sacred intelligence our bodies have always known. Feelings is remembering, right? When I think of remembering, I try to do it, but I'm writing so often. But if you follow me from early writings, I usually put the parentheses around the re, right? Because to remember is to put back together, right? Like members of a community, members of your body. We call our pieces like our digits are members of our body, we are members of a church, we're members of a family. And to the prefix re is to do again, right? Repair, remember. So I want you to think about it like that. When we have a remembering, we are putting things back together. We are taking those parts, right? Think of if you are familiar with IFS, we are taking all of the parts that have been separated and disconnected from supremacy culture, and we are putting them back together, right? So think about it as that. Grief is a sacred practice of remembering, of putting those parts back together, and it is sacred and necessary, very much so necessary. So the reframe here is decolonization as theory moving into decolonization as embodiment, right? Decolonization has been spoken about for a very long time. Indigenous people globally have talked about decolonizing our minds, our language, our ways of being, our existence, right? It's obviously become more popular since 2020. I will take it. I will take whatever and however brought you to the journey, whether it was your anti-racism, anti-oppression, decolonization, whatever brought you along on the journey, welcome to it. Love that. And so what does it look like moving from theory, right? Moving from the books, moving from the workshops, moving from all of those things into a true somatic embodiment of decolonization. That's the reframe. That says you can't decolonize your systems if you're still colonizing your nervous system. You have to start with the body. That is where the remembering begins. Suzanne says, wishing to honor, send peace and justice prayers to my neighbors here in Chicago today, those who are held captive, whose ancestors have been here for 10,000 years or more. What still is. Thank you for that. Yes, right? That is a sacred calling for us all to remember, especially in this month and especially on this day. These people have been fighting nonstop, 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 nonstop. Even when we go about our regular days, there is a nonstop work that is happening all of the time. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Suzanne. Yoga is very necessary. I'm funny about yoga because of the co-opting of yoga, right? I think that we need to think about it as sacred movement, intuitive movement, because yoga is a part of an entire cosmology that does not belong to us, right? So I get weary about yoga in certain spaces simply because of that. Because really, like I said, it could be intuitive moment. The same way I feel about mandalas, right? I was talking with a friend slash client and she found joy in her mandalas. And I was like, okay, I love that for you. What is your ethnic background, right? Like, let's piece together. And now let's Google what would be in your lineage that is similar to a mandala. Mandala, fun fact, simply is circle in Sanskrit. That's it. It's just another way to say circle. It is just that simple. So when we think about those things, right? Let's be mindful of decolonizing all of it. Exactly. Jen says Pilates is my stability maintenance in multiple ways. Yes, love Pilates. Right? I called I caught a Pilates reformer for $50 on Facebook Marketplace, and I absolutely love it. Ashley says New Age Capitalism by Kim Lau. Thank you. Let me try to put a note in here. Awesome. Thank you. I will add that to the replay. So, yes, from decolonization as theory to decolonization as embodiment. So, you can't decolonize your systems if you're still colonizing your nervous system, right? So, it goes right back to that grief. And like, you cannot be like, I'm going to thug this out, right? Like, now we do need to recognize what's discomfort, what's danger, all of those aspects of it, right? But knowing how to move through the discomfort of unlearning. I'm not going to pretend that it feels comfortable. I'm not going to pretend that it's a fun ride all the way through because it is absolutely not. But learning how to move through those spaces, the morning Lisa, is something that is super necessary, right? I firmly believe that unlearning liberation requires a regulated nervous system. You can't be dysregulated and do this work. Like, you just can't. And then when you are dysregulated, it doesn't mean to cease the work. It means to figure out how to re-regulate, right? Re-regulate. Yeah. So the reframe that I offer here, right? Well, I mean, I gave you the reframe. The reflection here is to ask yourself, where can I honor my ancestors' resilience without reenacting their pain? One thing that I have noticed amongst white bodied people is the trauma bonding that happens, and then you can't move out of that space. Good morning, sunshine. So it's not that, right? We can turn around. I can honor, you know, my ancestors' survival of the Middle Passage, survival of Jim Crow, survival of enslavement without rehearsing the pain. Right? I could recognize it. I could pay homage to it. I could do the same thing with my Irish ancestors, recognizing the serfdom, understanding indentured servitude, even recognizing how they were forced into assimilation and became a part of the colonizing class without getting lost in it, without getting stuck in it, moving through it, recognizing it. The same way I could recognize my own grief and pain and what that looks like and the severance from these lineages and the reconnection journey. You do not have to reenact pain. You do not have to rehearse it. You have to honor it. You have to recognize it and move through it. So what happens is with that is that the grief then ties into the accountability and that becomes that bridge for somatic grief. It is so hard, Abia. I'm not going to pretend. Like I said, this work is not easy. It is why I do the work that I do. It is why in any of the classes that I teach, it is about somatically understanding it, right? Like, okay, we could sit with this and offer that moment, right? If you're going to get into this practice, offer that moment. I just cried about Chicagoans. I've never even stepped in Chicago. I can offer that without being stuck in it. I can honor that. I could sit down and I could feel that grief. I could sit down and say, I know that this is a terrible moment in time, and some people are having it much worse than I am, and recognize that. And then say, okay, what can I do? This is what I can do, right? This is my ability to work towards unlearning, undoing, and having a better world 7 generations from it, right? This is what I could do sustainably. I keep showing up. This is the work that brings me joy. You got to find your own way out of that stuck in the mud feeling. Like, oh, Abia says, like sitting in the mud, right? Sitting in the mud is lovely. Being stuck in the mud, not so much, right? Like, because mud is healing, right? You could a good old mud bath, but you don't want to get stuck in there because that's the quicksand of the 80s that they told us about. We should be scared. Let me see what Jen says. I went to Pilates because of the yoga colonizing. I know some awful culture vulturing alabaster ladies, that and Reiki, and yes, with the appropriation. Pilates was the answer, like I couldn't imagine, by way of harm reduction. No worries, no worries. Yeah, and that's really all we could do is harm reduction, right? Jen says those in power have been running that scheme for years, and I just found out. Right. And that's what it is. It is, and there's grief at every single turn of decolonization because it's like, damn, I really loved this yoga thing. But there's an ashram somewhere in your area or town that would offer it and be genuine and connected. What's better is that if you get yoga at an ashram with the people that are truthfully connected to the entire cosmology, it is more than just your body movement, right? You are getting this spiritual fulfillment and they are sharing their practice with you. So that's something that's beautiful. So it's not like, oh, don't do that. It is just find the right spaces and places to do it so it's a fully nourishing experience for you. If not, then there is Pilates. There are dancing circles, right? Like go find a community dance circle, create a community dance circle. What it is about is intentional movement. It's about getting in, it's about stretching, it's about opening yourself to those things that could be recreated without co opting. Shin says, I meant that the scheme for what happened in Chicago. Oh, well, my bad, homie, but it fit for both things. So there we go. Hey, free. All right. Third one. Liberation is a practice of relationship, not performance, which I believe yeah, Ashley said that. Yeah, it's relationship, not performance. Look at you. Whether you're recognizing with colonizer lineage or reconnecting to indigenous roots, the work isn't about guilt or purity. We've got to release these binaries. That is part of those 15 pillars of supremacy culture. Please download the book. It comes with all of the things. It is an ebook. It is pay what you can. So it is not paywalled. And it will have a pretty little printout for you that you could just post up somewhere. I do even have a little magnet merch. Like you just put it up on your refrigerator, get a sticker for it, whatever. This is going to help you get it out of your body and place it into the system and recognize, right? So we're not going to be feeling guilty and we're not going to be absolutely pure and absolve ourselves of anything. We can move through all of those feelings. We could it's supposed to be movement. It's supposed to be constant movement. So again, this work isn't about guilt or purity. It's about returning to right relationship with land, with lineage, with yourself, with your community. That's it. That like I'm not going to I'm not asking anybody to feel guilty. I'm asking people to be accountable. And I often say that accountability is neutral. It's simply the truth, right? That's that's just it. I live in Muskogee land. This is colonized land. I also hold multiple truths as literally an ancestor of descendants of chattel slavery. I feel very much like we paid a huge price in this land and we are a part of it as well. There's a multiple things. I also can hold the truth that my ancestors are part of a lineage, my Irish ancestors turned into the colonizer class. I mean, those are all multiple truths. That's accountability. That's truth. That's just what it is. Jen says, feel empowered, not guilty or shame. Yes, feel empowered that you could heal these things, feel empowered that you could shift, that you could help others move through these things. It should feel empowering, right? That you can do something, that there is an answer within you that can fight against and push against these systems that continue to want us to be colonized. We are coming up on 250 years. Most empires don't last past that. It's time, friends. It's time. What are we building? What parallel systems? What are we co-creating together for a world that will exist differently from it is today? That's all we got, friends. That's all we got. So the reframe is from guilt to accountable stewardship. Guilt keeps you stuck in the story of self. Stewardship moves into the collective repair. The question isn't, am I bad? It's what can I restore? We're not, we're there, we're moving out of those binaries, good and bad. Systems don't allow for nuance. So we are dismantling those systems by dismantling the way that we respond to things. Ciara says, I recently heard that trees see white people and almost apathetic towards us. It broke my heart. What are your thoughts on that? Love this question. Let's go. So, Ciara, yes. I'm going to tell you in my neighborhood group, somebody put up a post and this was years ago, and they were like, oh, I just love the trees of Georgia. And they're so beautiful. And everybody white was chiming in on the beauty of them. And I was like, I would be remiss if I did not answer this. I love the trees of Georgia. I love the trees everywhere, right? For the various reasons of loving the trees, the way their roots are connected, the air that they allow us to breathe. But then I have to sit down, and when I am being in right relationship with the land, and I remind you guys that supremacy culture is non-consensual, and that the earth also needs liberation from us. Then you have to think about the trees as living. Right. So 1,000 years ago, lifetimes ago, when I was running Selenite and Sage, which was my spiritual counseling in space, I wanted to do an homage, like almost like a pilgrimage to the oldest oak tree here in Atlanta. And why I wanted to do that is because that oak tree, those roots, root every other oak tree that exists here. And these were hanging trees. I live where I live was Perkison Plantation. And when I take my children to the park and I see these beautiful trees and these massive trees, I have to remember that my children would be pickaninnies on this land right now. And I have to remember the whippings, the lynchings, the blood at the roots, the strange fruit hanging from that tree. So when I see trees and we connect, I think of those things. Another friend of mine, we were talking about these trees here over a bonfire, just hanging out, having these conversations. And he was like, think about all the trees that were cut down to become the boats for the Middle Passage. Again, unwilling participants in the violence of racism, supremacy culture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I do believe that. Right. And I do believe that when people are reconnecting specifically white body people, that there needs to be that needs to be that remembrance that just like you are an unwilling participant of supremacy culture, colonization, and racism, so are these trees. So all of that love and light tree hugging, and it doesn't come to the recognition of what your ancestors, and unfortunately you guys are just all have been grouped into that, what your ancestors have created and co-created through time has been them unwillingly participating in the violence, right? How many people? How many people? How many people? Suzanne says, I like to imagine the trees can say their names. And that's a beautiful way of connecting, right? And even if you don't know the name, but sitting down, and if you are going to sit up underneath the tree and touch that ground and touch that root and recognize the thousands and thousands of years that they have been here, that they have witnessed the violence of colonization, how many have been bolded over for our homes, for buildings, for unnecessary tasks that they never asked to be a part of. So, yes, and Jen says the trees have bones in them in black cemeteries and indigenous ones, right? Like, think about the flesh, the bones, the bloods of black and indigenous people. And even of the white bodied people that fought against, right? Like white people were whipped and hung. Think of the gallows that were built out of trees by white people for the punishment of other white people. Like the white on white violence is in colonialism, the brutality, right? When you think of like a maiden's chair, or the bridal the bridal mask that was worn, that was before it was for Africans. It was for white women that spoke out. There's so much violence, so much violence. So yes, I do believe that there is some apathy when trees come across white body people. And I think in order to heal that relationship with you and become in right relationship is recognize that. Right? That's what I mean. Like, not guilt, but just sit down and recognize, some people did some things that are terrible to you, right? The tree is living, the earth is living. Susan says, sometimes I feel the pain from the trees of all they have witnessed and endured, as one should, as one should. When we have a fairy tree in the back. You guys want to see my fairy tree? I'm gonna take it to the fire train. When we cut down trees here, because there is a necessity for that at times when they may become sick, or a limb fell like 2 inches from Erin one day when they were on a hammock, and but we honored that tree. We thanked for all the shade that it has given, all of the joy, and we sent it about its merry way. Like, but this is our cool little fairy trees. You see, like we put a little face here. And like it has all of these little things, and sometimes we add water, and we have gnomes. And hold on, because my kids have a freaking. Ugh. So part of the tree, when it came down, became seeds, and then it'll just compost right back in. This is buried our cat Spot, and all around the little vines, when we trim and when we do things, we honor them and we love her. Look at her, isn't she so majestic? Right? We're so thankful that she holds up the gym. She holds a hammock. So they hang out there. And all of those things happen. So there's so many ways to do this. So many. Isn't it gorgeous? Thank you. We have had that. We moved here in 2014. And she has been there all along. And we set it up on Erin's third birthday with some more fun stuff. And we did a beautiful fairy tree shoot. Erin looks so damn precious. Maybe if I could find, if I could find the picture. I mean, I have it up on my wall, but I might add it. So, oh my God, it was so precious. Put a little gold clock and put the time to 7:21 because that's when they were born. Oh, it was so precious. Empty hoot. So yes, and yes, and right. Michelle says trees recognize and embody interconnectedness. I have faith in their conscious recognizes the importance of people stepping back into connection. I agree. So that's what I'm saying is that, like, if you are going to be a white-bodied person, it's not stay away from the trees. That's like, I'm just not on that type of time. I don't there's nothing off limits to anyone. This is not about limiting, right? This is about true connection. It's not saying, yeah, you're white, so you're a part of the oppressive class. Don't touch no damn trees. That's not healing. It's not healing. It is saying you are white, you are a part of the oppressor class. So if you are going to sit under a tree and think about things, oh, let's go have a lovely picnic in the park. I want you to sit down and I want you to remember that picnics were quite literally where white bodied people would gather with their children and food and hang black people from trees, castrate the men, put their penis in their mouth and burn them, and they could eat whilst they smelt the flesh of him burning. And that picnic is going to turn into a true communion, right? It's not going to just be a lovely day in the park. When you can walk around with that recognition, with that awareness, with that accountability, you are going to start having a right relationship with the land, right? You're going to turn around and say, hmm, this is so much deeper than the surface. And how do I honor that, right? So now when you have your lovely little sandwiches, you're going to put your hand in that earth. You're going to recognize that that is the history of picnics in this land. And it's going to be a communion. It's an offering. Now you become an offering to that tree. The tree's not offering to you because it doesn't owe you a damn thing else. It's done all that it should do. Does that make sense? Obvious, let's hold that space and hold multiple truths at once. Yes. Yes. And again, it's not to ruin the picnic. Well, shit, I'll just never have a picnic again. Jesus, whiteness is so limited, right? Because they'll have this conversation. I just won't have a picnic again. Girl, I love me a picnic. I have a picnic basket. Like, no, it's not that. It is recognizing again that it's not the shark in the water, it's the water. It's the water. It's the water. And when you could recognize it's the water, then you are moving towards communion and proper right relationship and healing those spaces. So, yes, obvious as I fuck with picnics heavy with reverence. Right. Like I look, baby, listen, I have clothes, dress up clothes for picnics. I'm like, oh my God, it's a little wicker basket. Let's go have fun. But everything with reverence, right? It's literally that simple. This is not whiteness becomes so right binary. It's like, oh, well, we heard that picnics are terrible. We won't do them anymore. And it's like, why would you not enjoy outside? It's such a lovely fucking day, but can you do it and still honor the truth? Can you be respectful to the history of that? Can you sit on that earth and recognize I oppress you, and yet you are still here holding me firmly? That is important. I'm down, Abia. You let me know. All right. So let's go back to gosh, there was no way to do this one in 30 minutes, was it, friends? It was not. Okay. So from guilt to accountable stewardship, right? That's the reframe for the third point, which was liberation of the practice of relationship, not performance. So the reframe here is from guilt to accountable stewardship. Guilt keeps you stuck in the story of self. Stewardship moves you into collective repair. The question isn't, am I bad? The question is, what can I restore? And the reflection here is, how will I be remembered by those who come after me? I think that's the biggest thing, right? While we're in this ancestral month, this collective, global uh, ancestral month of awareness and truth, I want you to think about that. How will I be remembered by those who come after, right? So you're going to take your grounded breath. You're going to feel into the future version of yourself. And who will you be? Will you be somebody that they light a candle to and want to remember? Will you be someone that they turn around and say, I wonder what she would think about this moment? That is the work. Consistently thinking about what we are leaving behind. I tell you guys that this work is generational work. It's healing 7 generations back so that 7 generations forward can be living completely and utterly different. Are you working towards that? That's what that is. So Deep breaths, drink your water, move your body, because that was heavy. It's got nice and warm out here. So let's wrap up. Three talking points. One, remembrance is revolutionary. Two, grief is sacred, not shameful. Three, liberation is a practice of relationship, not performance. There you go. Bada bing, bada boom. That is your word on Monday. I really enjoy spending time with you guys. I am always, always thankful that you show up because I am not always timely. I am not traditional, right, as an educator. So I deeply appreciate the way that you guys just keep on showing up, no matter what platform I am on, no matter where I am, and no matter how unhinged. Thank you for loving me so well. I hope that I am loving you in return in the same way. For you love this? Okay, then thank you. I've got so much love to you too, mama. Yeah, bada bing. All right, I'm out of here. I'm gonna go have my second coffee. Um, and send this out in a moment. Oh, thank you, Ginge. We each are a light in this very dim world, right? Like, because again, I could not exist if you guys were not here doing this work with me. So it's a us thing. That's what co creation is about. So again, I love you guys. Thank you for showing up. Please move your bodies. Please drink some water. Please release, right? Don't hold it all in and honor an ancestor today. Think about somebody. You know what I'm saying? Think about somebody, whether you know them personally, you knew them collectively, but think about someone and what they would do and do your best to say, you know what? I want to be remembered in that way too. Hi, Risa. I'm just jumping off, but the replay will be available again. Mondays are not paywalled, so even the replay will be available, not paywalled. Okay. Love you guys. See you Wednesday. Bye.